5. Tupac Shakur. Born Tupac Amaru Shakur, he was also known as Tupac and sometimes, McCavely. American-born rapper and actor, Tupac has been featured in quite a few lists here at Listverse, and now one more. The night that Tupac was fatally shot is quite well documented. He was never alone, being in the company of Marion Suge Knight, the CEO of Death Row Records the whole evening. On September 6, 1996, Tupac started his evening ringside at the MGM Grand Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada with such company as Louis Gossett Jr., Charlie Sheen and baseball great Reggie Jackson to watch Mike Tyson demolish Bruce Seldon in 2 minutes flat. After a brief scuffle with Orlando Anderson in the lobby of the MGM, Tupac then accompanied Suge to his home in a suburb of Las Vegas. About 10 p.m. the pair and their entourage left Suge's home to go Club 662, where Tupac was scheduled to perform with the rap band Run DMC. They never arrived. Stopped at a red light, their car was boxed in on 3 sides by other vehicles and a 4th car rolled up on the left and started shooting. Out of the 13 bullets shot into Suge's BMW, Tupac took 3, 1 to his chest, 1 to his hip and 1 in the hand. Two tires had been flattened in the shooting and on the way to the hospital a 3rd tire blew out, and help had to be called. Paramedics were able to get Tupac to University Medical Center, where emergency surgery was performed. But to no avail. After 3 surgeries and the removal of one of his lungs, Tupac succumbed to his injuries 6 days later. Some say Tupac was killed due to his ties with gangs. Others say he was killed because his mother was once a Black Panther. Maybe it was because of the feud between Death Row Records and New York-based Bad Boy Records, run by Sean P. Diddy Combs. There was also another ongoing rivalry with Christopher Wallace, aka the Notorious B.I.G. Regardless, the only witness who agreed to testify in the event of an arrest. Yafu Fala was killed 2 months later in New Jersey, leaving no other witnesses able to help with the case. (4) Catherine d'Acosta. Prostitution is hardly a safe way to earn a living, and it proved deadly to Catherine d'Acosta in the spring of 1984. Working just north of Stockholm, Sweden, her dismembered body was found in 2 different sites in the city of Solna. Reported missing on June 10, the first bag of body parts wasn't discovered until July 18. A second bag was discovered at Karlbergs Beach in Solna on August 7, though her head, internal organs, 1 breast and genitalia have never been found. It's the lack of these particular body parts that is the primary reason that no one has been brought to justice for the crime. Two doctors, a pathologist who worked in between the 2 dump sites, and a general practitioner, whose very young daughter recalled memories of her father committing the crime, were both arrested and sent to trial. But since there was no evidence of the method of murder, due to the missing body parts, there was no way to determine if the victim had died of natural circumstances, and the Swedish legal system was forced to acquit the 2 men. Not to worry. The 2 doctors had their medical licenses rescinded and are no longer able to pursue a career in their trained fields. That hasn't stopped them from suing for wrongful loss of income, and after almost a decade of legal maneuvering, their suit has been denied as of February 2010. (3) Mary Pincott Meyer. A New England socialite that was raised in full stereotypical fashion, Mary Pincott Meyer is another one of the many women who has died because of an association to the Kennedys. A graduate of Brearley School and Vassar College, Mary took an early interest in communism and was a member of the American Labor Party. Working as a journalist for Mademoiselle magazine kept Mary in the finest of company among the political comers and the ingenues that they spent their time with. Nobody was surprised when she married Cordmeyer, a U.S. Marine lieutenant who was on his way up the ladder, in 1945. By 1947 she was happy to leave her job as editor of Atlantic Monthly, to become a stay-at-home mother to her 3 children. Meanwhile, Cordmeyer was able to secure a position with the CIA, and the fact that he was a member of the Communist Party was not an issue. In the early 50s, Cordmeyer became one of the primary operatives in Operation Mockingbird, a covert mission to sway public opinion, using mass media. Mary's communist leanings may also have been useful to the CIA, but they deemed her many love affairs left her too unreliable. In 1956, the death of Mary's middle son paved the way for a divorce, and opened the door for a more adventurous love life, and Mary had no problem turning a long-time friendship with John F. Kennedy into something more illicit. Now comes the weird part. It seems that at this point in time there was an underground plot among a small circle of upper socialite women to influence the decision-making processes of high political figures, men, by using sex and LSD. Mary was one of this little group, and her target was JFK himself. Considering their affair occurred during the Bay of Pigs fiasco, it is quite possible she did have some influence on his policies. Mary Pincott Meyer was killed on 12 October, 1964, 11 months after John F. Kennedy's assassination and 2 weeks after the Warren Commission report was made public. Mary's body had 2 bullet wounds, one at the back of the head and another in her heart. FBI forensics stated that the wounds were made at close range, possibly point-blank range. Upon her death, those closest to her frantically searched for Mary's diary and it was eventually found and burned. The burning was witnessed by 2 family members, who say that the affair with JFK was documented, but there was no further information that would shed light upon his assassination. In 2001, Cordmeyer was asked if he knew who had killed Mary. He responded, "The same sons of bitches that killed John F. Kennedy." 2. Lake Budham murders. Lake Budham is a freshwater lake near the city of Helsinki in Finland. It is also the site of a grisly mass murder that happened on June 6, 1960. Early in the morning, a group of 4 teenagers, 2 18-year-old young men and 2 15-year-old girls were savagely attacked by knife and bludgeon, while sleeping in a tent at the lake. The attack left 3 dead at the scene and a sole survivor, Nils Gustafsson, who was severely injured with a concussion and a broken jaw. He recovered from his injuries and went on to live a healthy life. Despite the fact that there was a survivor, there were no leads that could provide an arrest for the deadly attack. "12 years later, to the day, a man left a suicide note confessing to the murders. He said he was a lemonade vendor at the lake and later that night killed the young teens. But police investigation into this written confession proved that the man had not committed the crime, as he was asleep with his wife at the time of the murders. Another lead came in 2003, when Professor Jorma Palo published his account of a man he had treated in his hospital on the night of the murders. The man's name was Hans Asman, and he was treated for suspicious injuries. Palo alleges that the man was the murderer, but the crime was covered up because of Asman's ties to the KGB. The most confusing twist to the story is the arrest of Nils Gustafsson, the survivor of the attack, in 2004. It was 44 years after the crime and Gustafsson was now 62 years old. According to the official statement, Gustafsson erupted in jealous anger over his feelings for his new girlfriend. She was stabbed multiple times after the fatal blow, while the two other teenagers were killed less savagely. Despite having come to trial, blood evidence could not be linked to Gustafsson, and he was acquitted in 2005. In the name of fairness, Finland awarded Gustafsson a large monetary settlement for mental suffering caused by the long remand time. Servant Girl Annihilator. Since the first Unsolved Murders list ended with a vicious serial killer, let's keep that format. Molly Smith is presumed to be the first victim of the Servant Girl Annihilator, a serial killer who was active in the Austin, Texas area in 1884 to 1885. Predating Jack the Ripper's killing spree by almost 4 years, the viciousness of his attacks left the public hysterical, and some even tried to tie the two series of murders together as the work of one killer. At least 7 young women's deaths are attributed to the Annihilator, who not only raped his victims, but bludgeoned or slashed them to death. Sometimes the murder weapon was an axe, and several victims were stabbed by some sort of spike in the ears or the face. The killer's habit was to drag his victim from her bed while she slept, and because of this method on at least 2 occasions the victim's male bedmate was attacked as well, resulting in the bludgeoning death of Orange, Washington. Numerous arrests were made up to this point, but lack of evidence or airtight alibis lead to the release of all suspects. By September of 1885, the Servant Girl Annihilator had attacked 8 people, leaving 5 dead. Things were quiet for a few short months, then a change of MO on Christmas Eve, 1885, not 1 but 2 well-to-do white women were dragged from their respective beds, raped and axed to death. The husbands of each of these women were arrested and placed on trial. Through the infantile beginnings of forensic science, each man was proven innocent of the crimes and acquitted. The murders stopped and no one was ever convicted for them. Back to the Ripper murders, which took place in Whitechapel, London, England in 1888. One suspect, who rarely gets mentioned by Ripperologists, was a Malay cook calling himself Morris, a man who had threatened to kill Whitechapel prostitutes but who had then disappeared. In 1885 he had been employed at the Pearl House, a small hotel, in Austin, Texas. The information was confirmed, and it was ascertained that the cook had left the premises in January 1886. The Servant Girl murders had ended just weeks earlier and most of the victims resided not far from the Pearl House.